Priscilla Cole with the Geospatial Risk Summit, and I'm on today with Nick Lamparelli. Hi, Nick.
Priscilla, great to talk to you.
So, Nick, I want to tell a little story about how I first met you. It was a few years back. I was working in an insurance company, and you showed up on a call trying to sell me something. and on
Shocker.
and on the side, one of my coworkers was chatting. Clearly a fanboy of yours. Just like, this guy is great. Like, you're gonna love what he has to say. Since then, I've moved on. You've moved on. You might have even started another company or so in between. So tell us, what are you doing these days?
Basically, two major things. Folks in your audience probably recognize me as a nerd or the other nerd, Tony Kanyas with the top hat, the magician. I became managing partner for Insurance Nerds a little over 18 months ago. I help B2B firms in the space. Thought leadership, strategy, product strategy, go-to-market strategy. From a B2B standpoint, one of the things you need to do to stand out at credibility. You're not getting the sale if you're not credible. That's the biggest challenge that B2B firms, especially in InsurTech, have. That adds to elongated sales cycles. So we try to shorten the sales cycle by making them thought leaders in the space. The second thing, Insurance Advocacy Forum of Florida, a nonprofit, where we act as a neutral third party that advocates for the marketplace. So we are not pro-industry, we're not pro-consumer, we're pro-marketplace, because if you do the right things for the marketplace, the consumers in the industry will benefit from that. And especially in the state of Florida, it's so reliant on global reinsurance to thrive. But the marketplace, I don't think, fully understands or appreciates that.
No.
So from a regulatory or a legislative perspective, they're passing laws that actually make us unattractive to global capital. I want to be that neutral third party that will do research, create networking, potentially lobby at some point, but work with the legislators, the regulators, other stakeholders in the state of Florida around what we can do to make Florida a more attractive place for global capital. And if this works, we'll likely pick this up and go into other states.
Really critical timing right now. I mean, we're coming off of a very active hurricane season, of flooding, and now, of course, California is lighting up the news on the West Coast with these fires raging. So, why don't you tell us what's on your mind right now? Like, what are you buzzing about, like, right now in time?
You brought up California, the wildfires. I'm actively watching that. I can't even watch the videos anymore. I stopped when I saw person in his house with his dogs and fire all the way around. I'm like, I don't even want to see the next second. I don't know what's
That's
gonna happen here. I don't want to know. California is really on the top of my mind. To the Insurance Advocacy Forum of Florida, we have an event, and one of the topics is what we call Breaking Bad: best practices in exposure, aggregate, and catastrophe management. And Priscilla, it's amazing. After all of, I'll say, decades of doing aggregate, we're not Lloyd's of London where we're putting like push pins from like the early 1900s on maps to indicate like how concentrated we are. We have this rich set of geospatial tools, and yet we're still getting caught with our pants down. Hurricane Helene in Milton as well showed that. I don't want to get into a climate change thing. This is not these events are occurring with more frequency and more severity. What I learned very early on working with scientists was that no two events are the same, ever.
Yeah.
It's impossible for two events to be identical. There's so many variations. But human beings being human beings, we want them to be identical. We want to bucket them in. This is what a hurricane does. It produces a storm surge, and this is where it's going to go. And then when the storm gets inland, the storm peters out. Well, we're learning a whole bunch about what storms do when they go inland as the
Right.
sample size increases. These are wicked, vicious storms, like with a lot of energy and intensity. So we saw this with Ike when it made landfall in Texas.
Yeah.
Produced a lot of damage there, but typical hurricane fingerprint. Goes up to the Midwest. Storm from Canada comes down, mixes up, and basically re-energizes the storm. And we have $1 billion event in like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and people's jaw drops. Like, we don't have enough sample size to truly understand what these storms do. That energy has to go somewhere. Concentration risk is still a problem. This notion that we have properties and they're in the mountains and we don't cover flood, so we're okay, just gets blown up with Hurricane Helene. I was at the Pipso Trade Association for the state fair plans, and we had a conversation about Helene. It's likely more than 50% of the claims were closed with no payment, right?
Wow. Was it really that high? Wow.
It was really that high because these are like a lot of flooding claims.
Yeah.
People in the mountains don't think they need to buy flood. The flood occurs. They're just filing claims, hoping someone will give them money somewhere. And therein creates a waterfall problem. Even when the claims are closed with no payment, it still costs money and resources to adjudicate those claims. So
Sure does.
claims
Yeah.
can cost several $1,000s even when there's no payment, because there's a lot of regulations and you don't want to get sued. So resources have to be devoted towards those claims, even though you know you're going to close them because it's a flood claim. When you have concentration risk, even with properties, Priscilla, that are wind resistant, a tree will fall on it.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
not modeling for that.
No.
Now we're seeing like massive auto claims from these events. Ian was a huge one. The videos of the Ferraris getting pulled out of garages, things like that. Like there's probably close to $1 billion event for auto.
Yeah.
Okay, now in California, Priscilla, same sort of thing. Concentration risk. And this is not just an insurance problem. This is a public policy discussion. Like when take California, we're building homes that close to one another. One home becomes the fuel, for the next home.
Yeah.
Okay. And when the wind's gusting at nearly 100 miles an hour and one home catches on fire, it is just a rapid cascade. What's on my mind is concentration risk and linking it beyond insurance to public policy. This is a public policy problem, and the information and the wisdom and the insights we have to somehow deliver down to decision makers at every level: businesses, insurance companies, and politicians.
Yeah, I love that so much. I'm also one that wants to kind of like shine a light on some of these things and the interconnections. And, that's what this event coming up is all about. Like, it's about breaking down silos, bringing together a whole bunch of different industries together to kind of talk and share and think about these spillover effects, how insurance and in policy, insurance and, mortgage markets and finance, it's like very interwoven,
Yep.
right? Supply chain too comes up over and over. Maybe it's obvious already at this point in the conversation, but why are you excited to come, Nick, to this event?
So I'm a geospatial amateur. I'm an unprofessional. I love geospatial technology. My exposure to geospatial technologies has been predominantly insurance focused. I want to bust out of that. Take supply chain, for instance. If you're a business, right, that has a complex supply chain, one particular component or factory in Thailand that was making a chip that was necessary for iPhones and a whole bunch of other technologies, and that plant went down, it rippled through, right? So from a risk standpoint, I'd like to understand what some of the specialists in geospatial technology are doing in some of these areas. Energy is really interesting. Companies have caused some of these wildfires. So I know like they are aggressively applying geospatial technologies because, PG&E in California went bankrupt. And so now PG&E is spending a lot of money tracking at a very high resolution. When should we shut down? Because we have to, because we can't cause another wildfire. How they're doing that, like what the methodology, the thinking is around that, applicable ways I can use that in insurance, in risk management, and some of the things that I'm doing in Florida.
Nick, we're so excited that you're coming to the Geospatial Risk Summit. Find Nick. I don't know what hat you're going to be wearing the day of the event.
Okay, what hat should I wear? Should I wear the Boston hat? I think I'm going to wear the Boston hat because I'll be in New York. I can upset a few people.
Very good. Yeah, so find Nick, ask him questions. Very passionate about this. Love to talk about it. And, we're really excited that you're bringing that passion to the event.
Looking forward to it.